race. The LA Times poll has Trump up 5, 48, 43. The Investor's Business Daily poll has Clinton and Trump in a dead heat, 44 all. And the ABC News Washington Post poll has Clinton up by 4, 47, 43. But Donald Trump still considered the underdog. And the conventional wisdom, if you care to listen to it, says that Secretary Clinton will win in a squeaker. But the conventional wisdom seems poised to be destroyed. But maybe that's just me. So here we are in the home stretch, and Hillary Clinton's trying to hang on. But here she is getting rained on in South Florida.
I want to be the president for everybody. Everybody who agrees with me, people who don't agree with me, people who vote for me, people who don't vote for me.
Here's Donald Trump, who calls himself the closer, making a last-minute play in North Carolina.
When we win on November 8th, we are going to Washington and we will drain the swamp. So true.
So the choice is clear: the risky renegade or the corrupt liar. And pop star Katy Perry about to take the stage, stumping hard for Hillary Clinton in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, a state that shows Donald Trump surging in. Hillary desperately needs a high turnout in Philadelphia to offset the Trump voters in the rest of the state, which is why Katy Perry is there to fire up the kids. Recently, Secretary Clinton has been relying heavily on last-minute hip-hop events to turn out minorities and young voters, demographics that she has not been able to excite by herself.
Now I'm getting excited because we about to have our first woman president. Respect it just a little bit.
I want my daughter to grow up seeing a woman lead our country.
This other guy, I don't have any ill will towards him, but his conversation is divisive, and that's not an evolved soul to me, so he cannot be my president.
So with the race tightening, Hollywood stars have begun to panic at the possibility of a Trump presidency.
I've been saying since the summer that Trump can definitely win. Liberals, Hillary supporters didn't believe it. Everybody was doing an end zone dance on the 2-yard line in the middle of the summer.
It is really clear that if he wins, it will take us into this authoritarian nightmare. And there are a lot of people who appreciate a strong leader. I don't know how.
Yeah, they're called fascists.
If you're like a liberal who's not going to vote, you're a piece of. We need just a tough mother who nobody likes.
Wow. Joining me now from Philadelphia is Jennifer Griffin. So, Jennifer, you have a politician like Hillary relying on hip-hop and pop stars at the last minute. To me, looks a little desperate, maybe not that genuine. I don't even think she can probably name one Katy Perry song. For me, it seems like she might be worried about her black base and her millennial base staying home, putting Pennsylvania in play. Is that how you see it, or you just think this is the game plan all along, get the stars out to burst turnout?
No, Jesse, first of all, Katy Perry is a good friend of hers. She's been on the campaign trail with her for over a year and a half. In fact, she was the performer at the Democratic Convention. She has really actually been with her quite some time. What you're seeing, this has been, part of the plan all along to bring out these kind of stars at the last minute. They know that millennial voters are fickle. They know it's hard to get them moving. And so what they do is they hold these concerts in places where there's early voting. And so, for instance, we were in Cleveland last night, and there was still early voting today. And they give out free tickets, and then they also get the information of all the people who are standing in line, and they get them to the polls the next day. So this is part of the machine. And as I've said all day, it's a question of whether momentum or the machine and the ground game is going to win this election. And right now, Hillary Clinton and the Democrats have a better ground game because they have put a lot of effort into a lot of offices on the ground and a lot of volunteers. And so that's what you're seeing play out right now.
Well, Jennifer, thank you very much much. I had no idea Hillary and Katy Perry were close friends. That is news to me. Thank you very much, Jennifer.
They are.
All right,
They
let's go
are.
to the Trump campaign now. Donald hitting the airwaves with a vicious ad linking Hillary Clinton to Anthony Weiner. Here's a portion of it.
Hillary Clinton is under FBI investigation again after her emails were found on pervert Anthony Weiner's laptop.
Carl Cameron is standing by in Denver, where Donald Trump will be holding a rally in less than 3 hours. So, Carl, you've been embedded in a bunch of these presidential campaigns, and you see in the crowds and the last-minute ad buys, and you see the states that Trump is zigzagging back and forth to on the final weekend. What do your instincts tell you? Is this a winning campaign that's on offense, or is this like a chaotic scramble towards the very end?
Oh, it's both. It's both. He definitely has momentum in reference to what Jennifer was saying about they've got the machine. Trump recognizes that his organization doesn't compare to Clinton's. It's considerably smaller. But what Trump has is not a Katy Perry or a Jay-Z or a Beyonce. What Trump has is himself. He has been attracting these big crowds. He's been dominating the news and the cable television stations for the last 18 months. He can generate his own momentum, even with Twitter occasionally. And so he's pulled into a tie in the battleground states. He's pulled into a tie nationwide. On the Electoral College map, it's still very, very iffy. There's a half a dozen undecided toss-up states out there. Trump's strategy is pretty obvious. They've made no bones about it. He's got to flip Florida back into the red column. He's got to flip Pennsylvania back into the red column and win Ohio. If he should be able to defend North Carolina as well. If he were to do that and win all the Romney states, he can win the presidency. Problem is, those races are tied. Today he announced that he's going to go to Minnesota tomorrow instead of Wisconsin. Wisconsin, he's down about 4.5, 5 points. And Minnesota, he's down about 4.5 points. But he's never campaigned there at all this year, other than in the primary season briefly. So since as a general election candidate, it's not like he's been putting ads on TV there. This is a gamble, hoping he can expand the playing field and pick up another blue state. He has to win at least a couple of them. He can't go back and do what Romney did. He's got to improve on it and turn some of those states that went Obama 4 years ago into states that go Donald Trump on Tuesday.
That's interesting. Minnesota, I did not see that coming. I don't even know what to say about that. He's either going to win in a huge landslide or there's going to be a lot of second guessing on Wednesday. Carl, I know that there is legal weed in Colorado, so please just resist the temptation while you're out there. We need to see you next tomorrow morning, bright and early. Thank you very much. All right, up next.
Thanks, Jess. Good advice.
All right. Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway is here. And former Bears coach Mike Ditka joins us to tell me why he is on the Trump train. People like
That's right. You're
Hillary's
paying
campaign.
them $1,500 to do that, Jesse.
Right.
But look, this is catching up with them, and I love your intro because the whole point that his legacy is on the line is how we actually have closed this race yet again, calling into question the value of Obamacare and its durability and its fairness and its affordability, its accessibility for many Americans. That's been the one big message over the last couple weeks, if I can point to one, that's really made the difference for Mr. Trump. He's taken it head on. We're going into different states and different areas within a state and saying, this state has one or two providers left. Your premiums are going through the roof. Your access is compromised. The quality has gone down. And people, I mean, they're just really love that. When he talks about repealing Common Core, when he talks about defeating ISIS, which of course Hillary Clinton refers to as our, quote, determined enemies instead of the savage murderers they are.
Right.
So all that's coming together, the issue set. And I think that the president, well, both, former President Bill Clinton and President Barack Obama were having a little bit too much fun on the stump there 10 to 14 days ago. Now they're getting serious, saying, whoa, you've actually got to get out there.
Bill Clinton loves to have fun on the stump. That is what he does best. You said something about Obamacare being kind of the turning point, and I think it's even broader than that, because I think it's now turned on corruption. And we all know Obamacare was passed with bribes and lies. That's how it got passed. But then when you add the FBI, you add the WikiLeaks stuff, the collusion with the press, the pay for play, and you see Hillary Clinton out there going dirty late. This right now seems to me she's the corrupt person and Donald Trump's now trying to drain the swamp. This thing's really catching on, the drain the swamp deal. Did you see this corruption as being the primary driver? Because that's how I see it.
Yes, he's been talking about that for a while. His nickname is Crooked Hillary, and you don't need to look far to get evidence as to what that means. People have been living with what I call the Clinton scandalabra for decades now, and she just keeps adding to it. Look, I think at this point, Jesse, many of these swing voters who are truly undecided between Trump and Clinton are very decided about how they view Hillary Clinton. They don't have a favorable opinion of her. They think she has a very casual relationship with the truth. She has a hard time being honest and trustworthy. And basically what many of them are saying now, and you see it reflected in the polls, Jesse, is it going to be worth it? Is it really worth rolling the dice and taking the chance? I think all the questions that we've been asking about Donald Trump, we should have been asking about Hillary Clinton. Is she fit to be president? Is she qualified? Does she even have the right to run, given everything that we know about this constant ethical stain and cloud of corruption following her?
Yeah, maybe she is the risky candidate. Maybe it's not Donald Trump. You said something about the polls. If you listen to the conventional wisdom, they're saying Hillary is up by about 2 to 3. She's going to win Florida. She's going to win North Carolina.
No and no.
Okay. So then tell me about the millions of Americans that see these battleground states that are so tight, with Trump winning in some of them. And people out there seeing the lawn signs, seeing all the crowds, and kind of feeling the Trump movement in their gut. What do you tell those people? Is this a silent majority situation where they're just going to shock the world on Tuesday?
They are. You're going to see circuitous lines the way you see before his rallies. Hershey, Pennsylvania last night, we have 15,000 people inside, 5 or 6 outside. They're so happy to be there. And then the media will say, Jesse, but will they vote? No, of course not. They've been here for 5 hours to get into a rally, but they're not going to show up. And look, the crowd size matters, but also the enthusiasm and the momentum and the fact that we have them on defense. It was just announced that they're going back to Michigan, going back to Pennsylvania. It wasn't so long ago that people were buying into and writing these ridiculous stories about her competing in Texas, and Georgia, and Indiana,
Arizona,
Missouri. Where did that go? And so we will defend, we will win North Carolina and Florida, and add that to our core 4 of Iowa and Ohio, and then we have about 6 different paths to 270 from there, which is pretty remarkable since Hillary Clinton starts out with 248 electoral votes and only needs to get 22 more. She spent $1 gazillion, lots of negative ads, unbelievable ground game, we're told. And she's obviously been running for president in the whole 8 years since she lost the first time. And yet to find, it's been kind of elusive to find those 22 electoral votes.
Very elusive for Mrs. Clinton. You said something also about the map, and you guys are changing the map around. For me, looking at what she's doing and who she's playing with, these celebrities in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that's her home turf, that's her firewall. And she's going dirty late. She has President Obama doing interviews with Bill Maher, with Al Sharpton. To me, it's desperate. It looks like they have like a problem with the base. The base is not excited. Young people aren't excited. Black Americans aren't excited. And it's this last-ditch effort to rely on celebrities and the far left to drive enthusiasm on Tuesday, and it just doesn't look to me from the outside as indicative of a winning campaign that's playing towards the middle.
It doesn't feel like a winning campaign in this last week. Even an analyst on a different network made that point, and she would be favorably disposed toward Hillary Clinton. She goes to the rallies and she says it doesn't feel like a winning campaign in its last week. It also makes Hillary Clinton seem very small. And I know a lot of our supporters say lock her up, but I like to say prop her up. I mean, they basically have everybody coming in to make her case. And who is Donald Trump's best advocate? Donald Trump. And he's got folks out there like Melania Trump now, the future First Lady, introducing him today. It was quite a surprise in North Carolina, giving her own speech in suburban Philadelphia earlier this week. And I think when you look at Hillary Clinton, the fact that she needs other people to help her just tells you about where the momentum and enthusiasm are. And look, because we're winning in places like New Hampshire, because we're tied in places like Pennsylvania or Michigan, it makes our would-be voters so excited that they can go and back a winner. I'm telling you, we're going to win big on Tuesday night.
All right. Well, I mean, I've always said if she is such a strong woman, why does she have all these people trying to drag her across the finish line? Kellyanne, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, up next, I'm going to give the people what they want. My prediction for the election. You're not going to believe how it breaks down. And later, Watters World goes to West Virginia to see what real Americans think of the race. Hillary is the slight favorite. Trump is closing strong. Take a look at the water map. Break down. Wins Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina, and tacks on Nevada, Iowa, and New Hampshire. Hillary takes Virginia, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Colorado, leaving her firewall intact. Where does that get us? 269 to 269. Isn't that the perfect end of this election? And then it goes to the House. But there is a wild card. If Donald Trump wins Maine's 2nd district, which he spent more time and money in, he could gain an additional 2 electoral votes, putting him over the top, 271 to 269. Of course, I could be wrong. It could be a landslide, and you know which side I'm talking about. But I'm just going to pat myself here on the back for putting some skin in the game, because most hosts aren't going to go out on a limb like this just 3 days before Election Day. I just have to give the people what they want. Joining us now, president of Rasmussen Media Group and senior fellow at King's College in New York, Scott Rasmussen. So am I crazy with this map?
Well, of course you're crazy, but it's not because of this map. I mean, I've done that for a long time. When you talk about this election year, the thing that people are missing, 12% of the voters are telling pollsters they're not committed to either of the major party candidates right now. That's a huge number. It's more than double what it was 4 years ago. So there's a lot of room for shifting in these last couple of days. Does your map make sense? It might. Florida and Ohio and North Carolina are absolutely essential for Donald Trump.
Right. Let's look at the Florida polls right now. Florida, the Real Clear Politics average has Donald Trump ahead right now by a hair.
And it was down by a hair earlier. I mean, these numbers are very, very close. And polls aren't going to be precise to the 10th of a point.
Right.
What this tells us, Florida, it's going to be turnout. It's going to be all the things that Kellyanne was talking about.
And Trump's there almost every day. I mean, he's doing multiple rallies in the state of Florida. He knows he needs it.
I think the early voting signs right now aren't bad for the Trump team because the Democrats really haven't opened up an advantage the way they did 4 years ago.
Right.
But we have to find out about Florida. That is the biggest single question. If Donald Trump wins there, a lot of other things begin to fall into place.
They all fall into place. Also, he desperately needs North Carolina, and the Democrats have been investing heavily in North Carolina. We've seen Michelle Obama down there, President Obama down there. They're throwing the kitchen sink in North Carolina. If Hillary wins North Carolina, it's over.
That's right. That's the only state where I think if you're on Team Trump, you have to be really concerned that you're losing a Romney state. But remember, there were the riots in Charlotte a while ago, which raised the law and order issue. The young teenage girl who was being sexted by Anthony Weiner lived in North Carolina. These stories are playing big in the Tar Heel state.
Okay. And we are going to also look at Nevada. Now, a very crooked state. I remember the last time Harry Reid was on the ballot there, he was down by 4 and then turned it out with like some last-minute shenanigans in Vegas. I don't know how they do it there. Trump is neck and neck in Nevada. But how do you see things playing out there?
Well, John Ralston is one of the best analysts in Nevada, and he said it's all over for Donald Trump.
Really?
The early voting shows that he can't possibly catch up. I think that may be overstating it, but there are some concerns. And as you point out, Nevada is always a tough state. It looks good for the Republicans in the polls, and then something happens.
And something happens with those unions in the Las Vegas casinos. I can't figure out what. Pennsylvania, real quick.
Pennsylvania, if it's going to happen in any year for the Republicans, Donald Trump is the guy to do it because of all those bitter clingers that feel they've been ignored for years.
And she's been in Philadelphia heavy. The president's been in Philadelphia. Katy Perry is there right now in Philadelphia. It looks like they need a little help there.
Yeah, there's a public transit strike, which could keep turnout down a little bit in Philadelphia.
So Trump's hoping the strike goes on.
That's right. And expands.
All right, Scott, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Up next, what is World in West Virginia, the most emotional segment of the night? And later, will Hillary Clinton go to jail? Will she be impeached? Will she be pardoned? We've studied the scenarios and have a very special report. Do you blame the president for the problems here?
Yes, and Hillary Clinton. I worked in the coal mines about 30-some years.
Hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, it's hard work, but you know, a man that wants to work, he can find work in the coal mines. Good pay. And once this is all over and they're said and done with coal, nobody's going to be able to afford to live.
We all work for a living down here. I mean, they just, like we're kicked to the side. I mean, makes you feel like a piece of dirt is what it makes me feel like.
What's the game plan to get people back up on their feet here?
Going to get somebody in the White House and knows about poor people and put them back into work.
Are you going to vote in the election?
I do not vote.
Why not?
Because I do not believe in democracy.
Do you think Hillary Clinton wants to help the coal business?
I don't think Hillary Clinton wants to help anybody. I believe Donald Trump would make a good president as far as maybe trying to get people to work, trying to get coal mines back up.
Hillary said that she wants to put coal miners out of business.
Yeah, she'll put West Virginia upon my business.
Tell me why you like Trump.
Well, he's not planning on taking our guns, and he's trying to help with the insurance for health care.
You going to make America great again?
Possible. Couldn't be worse.
Who are you going to vote for?
Well, I ain't going to say that.
These people, you know, they're rich, they prosper, they don't care about the poor people. The poor's getting poor and the rich is getting richer.
Oh, but I don't know if she's trustworthy.
I don't like neither one of them, really.
Do you think politicians care what's happening to the workers around here?
No, I don't think he cares. As long as they got money in their pocket, they ain't worrying about anybody else.
I'd like to speak to some of these politicians and ask them why.
Yeah.
Why does our people have to suffer? We, the people of the United States, they work for us. It's time we get back to that.
With me now to discuss is co-host of The Five, Kimberly Guilfoyle, Fox News contributor Pete Hegseth, Fox News contributor Julie Rodzinski, and the executive producer of Imus in the Morning, Bernard McGurk. So, Kimberly, it just breaks your heart watching that. It seems like the war on coal is the only war Obama's actually won. And when you look at the devastation in the area, you can't help but think, you know, this is America, and these are Americans. What's happening down there?
The government, you know, totally out of touch, and they just don't care. I mean, it's a war on American values, on American people. These are men, families that are proud, that want to be able to provide for their children. They want to work. They don't want to be told, and Trump brought this up, you know, hey, would you ever consider doing something else? No, this is what they do. This is what they know how. This is what they love. So why are we killing their jobs and their dreams and harming their families? It's just shameful. When you hear him talk about that, he says, this is happening in America. Right. Why are they doing that and destroying? It's like they've been forgotten. They're like the forgotten people in our own country, and it's sad.
They have been forgotten, and when Trump talks about America first, it resonates because he's saying you got to bring in these Syrian refugees and give them things. Yep. You're bringing in illegal immigrants and you're giving them things. But Americans in West Virginia, citizens, have nothing.
Are suffering because policies have consequences.
Yeah.
And the package you did on poverty in the inner cities, poverty is not a race.
Right.
It has to do with the way people interact with the society around them. So in the inner cities, we don't have education the way they should. Common Core and public schools have failed generations of kids. They don't have opportunities. In rural areas like this, the Democrats have sided with the Enviros, with Tom Steyer and the environmental lobby to shut down coal miners, and that is their policy. That is why these jobs are gone.
Yeah.
That's what Donald Trump speaks to is, I'm for you, the worker, not that rich billionaire who wants to so-called protect the environment.
And one of the workers, Julie, told me when he's looking at the devastation, they're sending millions of dollars to Haiti through the Clinton Foundation. And God knows where that money went. But where's the money going to West Virginia? Hillary won West Virginia by about 20 points over President Obama. These are supposed to be her people. Then she says she wants to put coal miners out of business. What do you think Hillary Clinton would say if she saw this piece?
Well, I think she would say, I'm not sure what she would say. I'll tell you what I would say, which is this is actually tragic, and I completely empathize with what they're going through. And, when Hillary Clinton talks about a basket of deplorables, I think part of the reason that I found that statement to be unfortunate is because people like this are people that she probably is alluding to, and it's what did. But these are two left behind both by the Democrats and the Republicans. They weren't prospering under the last Republican president either. And the problem here is...
It wasn't that bad.
Well, it's only going to get worse. That's the problem.
They've shut coal production down by 50% in the last 8 years.
They have, and it's not going to come back. And so the problem here is, rather than sitting here and saying that it's not coming back, the question is what to do with these people. Do you retrain them for a different industry?
Well, it could come back under Trump presidency because you can kind of get rid of these ridiculous regulations and get mining back up in business.
You revitalize
monopolize the industry. Absolutely right. I mean, her policies, she's in the pocket of the big banks, the big business, the globalists, aided and abetted by the corporate media. You could revitalize it. They think that it's economic. They want to commit economic suicide by destroying oil production, coal production, natural gas, and oil to the exclusion of these workers. Like, as you said, he wants to put America first. They want to unilaterally commit suicide in the name of climate change, which they think is a bigger threat than ISIS, which is totally ridiculous.
And it's also political suicide for the Democrats, because if you're losing the working class men and women of this country, that's why you see Trump closing in a state like Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, and look at West Virginia. I mean, if this trend continues for the Democrats to lose these people, their whole map's in jeopardy.
No, it's debilitating for them, but you know what? They have not earned their vote. They don't deserve the right to keep it. When you are stepping on the spines and crushing them of American families, then you should be thrown out of office. How I see that, trying them something different and greater, a better future for their families. Maybe you need somebody that hasn't been in politics and business as usual in D.C.
Exactly. You wonder why Trump's going to Minnesota? A lot of those types of people, I'm from Minnesota, northern Minnesota, miners and others who used to be DFLers, Democrats, because they were for the working man. Now, the inner city elitist Democrats are for the environmentalists and climate change. They have left the working man behind. Republicans, led by Trump, have an opportunity to bring in a massive new constituency.
So true.
The Rust Belt as well.
That's right. All right, guys, thank you very much. Up next, Donald Trump. If he won, means Hillary would be in jail? Could this be a possibility? We have a special report. And later, my man, Mike Ditka, tells it like it is.
Yeah, hello, operator. Give me NASA. Yeah, NASA. I know it's in Houston. Look, this is Mike Ditka. Let's get it done, sweetheart.
Senator emails, Anthony Weiner's laptop, and the Clinton Foundation. Remember, last year, President Obama said this was not a threat to national security.
Did you know about Hillary Clinton's use of private email server?
No.
While she was Secretary of State?
No.
Do you think it posed a national security problem?
I don't think it posed a national security problem. I think that it was a mistake that she's acknowledged.
But Fox News has learned President Obama is wrong once again.
There is a confidence from these sources that her server had been hacked, and that it was about a 99% accuracy, that it had been hacked by at least 5 foreign intelligence agencies.
Wow, that could mean a number of things, one of which is if Hillary Clinton is elected, she could be the target of blackmail by foreign agents. Not to mention any legal jeopardy from the FBI investigation. Here with me now is editor at townhall.com and Fox News contributor Katie Pavlich, who's been looking into the different scenarios. So, Katie, Trump's the law and order candidate, and now it looks like Hillary's running from the law. Let's just say Hillary is elected president. A lot of people are wondering, could she be impeached?
She can be impeached. However, here's the thing. She can only be impeached for things that she does once she is elected and once she is sworn in as the president. So all of the stuff with the Clinton Foundation, all of the stuff with the classified emails, she cannot be impeached over that, unfortunately. So when Homeland Security Chairman Michael McCaul talks about impeachment being on the table, technically, it's not on the table unless she does something while she's in office as president that is an impeachable offense.
Okay, so you're saying congressmen have no idea what they're talking about. Okay, that makes perfect sense. A lot of people are also wondering, is prison realistic for Hillary Clinton?
I'm afraid I'm here again as the bearer of bad news. Unfortunately, prison at this point for Hillary Clinton is a long shot. And unfortunately, even the new FBI investigations into her mishandling of classified information and the multiple investigations into the Clinton Foundation by a number of different field offices is really a train to nowhere, and this is why. Unless the Justice Department, through their prosecutors and the convening of a grand jury, will get on board, the FBI really doesn't have anything to do but investigate. Their job, they don't have subpoena power. That comes from the Justice Department, and they don't have the ability to convene a grand jury. And so all they can do is say, here's the evidence, DOJ, do something about it.
So let me stop you there. There could be a special prosecutor appointed, correct?
That is true, yes, but that would have to come from the Department of Justice. And considering Hillary Clinton wants to keep, at least we've heard anyway, Loretta Lynch on board at the Department of Justice, I doubt that's going to happen, especially since on top of it.
What if Donald Trump is elected president? Can't
here's another
his
scenario.
Justice Department then appoint somebody and then look into some of these criminal matters and possibly charge her with a felony?
Now, that is where we would see some progress. If Donald Trump were to win on Tuesday, he turns over the Justice Department. He takes up a new attorney general who says to the U.S. attorneys, hey, let's get a grand jury here. Let's get some subpoenas. Let's get some movement here on the evidence that the FBI has presented to us, both on the classified information and the Clinton Foundation. Then absolutely there's more on the table. But that's going to be a long, drawn-out process, and you can bet that Hillary Clinton's legal team will fight it every single step of the way. But the best chance for Hillary Clinton to see accountability for the things that she has done previous to Tuesday is by Donald Trump becoming the president and appointing an attorney general, which may in fact be Rudy Giuliani.
Right.
So I think that he'd have some interest in pursuing that case.
Love that. And then
He
lastly,
would.
real quick, a pardon. Could this happen? Could Obama pardon Hillary Clinton if she's indicted as...
He could.
Yes?
He could pardon her. The question is, will he? He has the power to do so. Gerald Ford pardoned Richard Nixon before any charges were officially put on the table. President Obama could do that with Hillary Clinton. However, politically, that would mean that he's admitting she's guilty. And let's not forget that it was Republicans who took down Nixon, not just Democrats, and Democrats aren't going to admit that.
Well, President Obama pardons turkeys all the time. I don't see why he would have any trouble pardoning Hillary Clinton. All right. Thank you very much,
We'll
Katie.
see.
Coming up
Thanks,
next,
Jesse.
the legendary Chicago Bears coach is here to give us his take on the election. Hillary Clinton has the endorsements of Jay-Z, Katy Perry, and Beyonce. But Donald Trump has the endorsement of legendary Chicago Bears Super Bowl coach Mike Ditka, who I spoke to recently. Here's what the coach said about voting for Donald Trump. If you want good things to happen, you can vote for him. And if you don't, you don't. But don't about it after the fact. So, Coach, to me, it seems like the real reason you like Donald Trump is you guys are the same person. You're both like old school throwback, Spitfire kind of guys. It'd be like just having Coach Ditka in the White House. Isn't that right?
Well, there's less BS. I mean, you're going to get a lot of BS with anybody anymore, but Donald's pretty much, he says what he says and he says what he thinks. You know, we hear a lot of criticism. I want to recite you something. You tell me who said that. A man once said it's becoming increasingly difficult to be tolerant of a society that only has sympathy for the misfits, the maladjusted, the criminals, and the losers. He said, pity them and help them. But he said it's about time in our society that we stood up and cheered for the doers, for the achievers, for those people who recognize the problem and then do something about it. In other words, for the winners and leaders in life. You know who said that?
Who said that?
Vince Lombardi. Vince Lombardi said that.
Probably the only coach that might have had a little more success than you in the NFL. And it reminds me of Kaepernick. You know, you got this guy not standing for the anthem. He's celebrated. You have these kids in college. They can't wear Halloween costumes because it might offend somebody. No one likes to get their hands dirty in this country anymore. Do you see Donald Trump as the guy that can kind of just blast through this PC nonsense and kind of set the country back on the right course?
Well, the political correctness is going to kill us. America's America. We became great, not because we were politically correct. You know, we had to make tough decisions all throughout the history of our country. People don't want to stop and understand that. Nobody likes war. Nobody likes the things that come with it. But hey, sometimes it's necessary. You got to knock the bully on his ass.
That's right. And it's not just you who've endorsed Donald Trump. You also have iconic coaches like Lou Holtz and Bobby Knight have come out to support Donald. What do you guys see as talent evaluators looking at Donald Trump as a potential commander-in-chief?
Well, I think what you got to understand is you look at the situation, what needs to be done, how are you going to do it? I think, and that's the same thing that happened with the coaches, Bobby and Lou, when they looked at the situation. When they went into the Indiana Notre Dame, they looked at the situation and they said, here's what we have to do to make this situation better. I did the same thing with the Bears. Now, you got to have, if you don't have good players, you're not going to succeed. And I think that's what Donald Trump is trying to do right now. Here's where the country is. I think it can be in a better place, he's saying, and here's how we're going to do it. And that's all you can ask for.
And one of the places that really needs to go into a better place is the city of Chicago. Besides the Cubs' victory, a lot of violence just wreaking havoc all over that town. You know, Trump's the law and order guy. As a Chicago guy yourself, what would you like to see done in that city? Because it's just lawless in certain areas right now.
We've had so much talk in our country about the police, and you know, it's really a shame, and it's not only a shame but disgusting, because without our police and without the people who uphold the law, we have a lot of people who don't want laws, they want to be lawless. They don't want to have to abide by anything, and that's the problem right now in Chicago. You know, they got to step on them a little harder. The police have got to have more power, and they got to be able to do a better job.
Now, I know you still run with a lot of athletes and people in the press. Do you get a hard time coming out supporting Donald Trump from some of your friends and colleagues, or do they just kind of, you know, let you do what you do because they're terrified of you?
Jesse, you really think I would care what any of those people said about what I think? You know, life is about choices. Everybody has a choice to make. Make the choice and live with it. I mean, I'm not telling anybody to do anything they don't want to do. You got a choice, go do it. I've got a choice. Don't bother me about my choice, because I pretty much made up my mind.
What's your gut tell you? You're an instinct guy. What's it tell you real quick?
I think he's going to win. I really do.
Coach, thanks very much for joining Watters World. We really appreciate it, and congratulations on the Chicago Cubs.
You bet. Thank you, Jesse.
Oh, Coach Ditka, what a great guy. So, I know you guys hate doing this, but I'm going to do with what I did with Mike Ditka. Make you guys choose. Live television.
Oh my gosh, I'm so nervous.
Kimberly Guilfoyle. What is going to happen on Tuesday?
I think America's going to be made great again. I just have a feeling he's got the late-breaking momentum.
Yeah.
His numbers are strong. He's tightening in. I mean, if he had a couple more days even, woof.
That's true. That's true. He needs a couple more days. What do you think, Pete?
I think Trump. I think the momentum's on his side. I think he's going to rewrite the map in ways people don't expect.
All right.
There's states that have not been on the table for a long time, where working-class men and women are going to come out for him, and others that are more difficult for him.
And you, McGurk?
Trump in a close one. You had the Comey letter, and the women's vote's very important. Two things happened recently. Melania spoke. We'd rather have Melania as a classy first lady, a female immigrant. And also, I'm uncomfortable with a presidential candidate who campaigns with a musician who calls women bitches and hoes. Women don't like that either. They want respect.
Ooh.
Trump in a close one.
Melania moving the dial from McGurk. I like that. What about you,
All right,
Julie?
well, unlike everybody here.